Hi, Sid. Good to see you.
Hey, Robert, good to see you as well. Hey, Troy.
Hey,
Hey.
how are things? We're just
Hi,
discussing,
René.
yeah, if the link work works well, because apparently not a lot of people came in, but you came in okay. So
I did, yeah. I actually didn't realize this was happening until I looked at my calendar last night, and then I was like, oh, this looks interesting. I will try to be there. So thank you for including me. I appreciate it.
yeah, sure. Good that you're here. Thanks for joining.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think we can start because it's a short session. It's a 40-minute limit. And we'll see if some other people will show up. For now, Troy, you guys connected with each other some time back. So you can skip the introductions. Okay. Okay, so hello everyone. Welcome to our focus discussion on optimizing AI in regenerative communities. I'm Robert Schram, and I'll be facilitating today's session. I would say we have a nice turn up here with Troy and Sydney. I hope some others will join soon, but lots of unique insights undoubtedly and experience here at the table. And our goal is to collaboratively explore how AI can be best utilized in regenerative communities, identify key parameters and criteria, and discuss effective implementation strategies. That's a mouthful, so I will put the agenda for today in the text box. Chat. Okay, so we'll be going through four discussion segments. One is the best uses of AI in regenerative communities. The second segment is about parameters and criteria for integration. The third is discussion segment, implementing strategies, and then we come to a conclusion. Let's see what it brings us next. As we all are aware, AI has the potential to be a transformative tool for regenerative communities, offering solutions that can enhance sustainability, resilience, and community well-being. But with great potential comes great responsibility. It's crucial that we approach AI integration thoughtfully, ensuring it aligns with regenerative principles and ethics. And that's what this work stream, this meeting is about. Let's start with setting some, ground rules. If you want to say something, just put up your hand. And yeah, let's give each other enough time to reflect on matters. To begin, it's maybe good to explain the difference between sustainability and regeneration. Sometimes there's a bit of confusion. Sustainability focuses on maintaining current systems and resources to prevent degradation and ensure they can support future generations. It's about minimizing harm and reducing the negative impact on the environment. So regeneration, however, goes a step further by actively improving and restoring ecosystems and communities and natural systems. Regeneration aims not just to sustain, but to rejuvenate and enhance the health and vitality of the environment and society. So while sustainability seeks to balance and maintain, regeneration strives to heal, renew, and contribute positively to the planet's life cycles. Let's flow into discussion segment one, best uses of AI in regenerative communities. Yeah, so the question is, how can we best use AI in regenerative communities and consider AI's role in resource management? For instance, also community engagement, ecological monitoring, and beyond. So I would like to ask you guys, Troy or Sid, to give a brief reflection on some of these questions.
Go ahead, Sid.
Yeah, well, I've been really becoming tight with Charlie. That's what I call ChatGPT, is Charlie. He's like my bro. And yeah, I've used it to get grants for some regenerative projects. I've been really grateful to be able to plug in a lot of information that's disconjointed or not fluid or well written, and then it just churns out a pretty fluid, nicely written piece of material that I can edit and tweak and submit for grant money to do regenerative earth healing work. So that's been my primary use of it, as well as Read AI, like you see here. It's really nice for summarizing meetings and transcribing, so I don't have to note take. So in a lot of my regenerative focused meetings, I have it there with me to support me and making sure we are logging everything that's being discussed.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah,
Thanks.
cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
Troy?
Okay, I'm not sure I have the most stable internet, so is it okay now?
Yeah.
Seem like I'm okay. Yeah, I've been paying attention and using AI and very intrigued by it, and I think it's got liberating potential for humanity. It's also got self-termination potential for humanity. And so, which is why I'm very interested in this call and your particular framing around regenerative criteria for AI, because I think unless we have regenerative criteria and adhere to that or embed that within the artificial intelligence, it's going to be potentially dystopic. But again, I'm hopeful. I'm not a doom and gloomer. I think if we get it right, it could create new resource distribution systems, new economics, new self-governance systems that could really help humanity evolve to to a new paradigm that is regenerative. But again, if AI is embedded within our degenerative systems as they are now, then it's not, I don't have much hope for it. So yeah, that's about it for now.
Yeah, thanks. Maybe we can reflect a bit on the part how we sort of can use AI best in community, with community engagement. Can you guys come up with an example where the regenerative criteria would be very helpful? I mean, if you go to a regenerative village or project, how do you exactly know how regenerative it is? And how can AI possibly support in that process? Any ideas?
Yeah, I think it can be really helpful with synthesizing data. Like if a group of people are feeding it information, having it support with identifying patterns or the before and after of a project. Yeah, just want to like quickly say, I loved what you said, Troy, about it helping with governance and tokenomics. I think that's a hugely exciting thing and has lots of potential, because as much as like we have these tools, I feel like humans aren't necessarily ready for alternative forms of governance and power sharing. And I think if we could be utilizing AI to support us and guide us in navigating the complexities of different kinds of governance, that would be exciting.
Mhm.
Yeah, totally. Thanks for that. Any other thoughts, Troy? Or can.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, so if we're talking in terms of criteria, I'm reminded of some of the work you and I have done, Robert, and with the World Summit movement a few years back. And then there's this particular sub-movement, I guess, called Game B community. And as is implied, Game A is the current degenerative systems and Game B is the alternative regenerative systems. And so we explored some work as well as many other thought leaders in that space have identified some criteria by which we can actually achieve this Game B paradigm. Just a couple come to mind that, anti-rivalry, a Game B society should be anti-rivalrous. So in other words, collaborative and over competitive, and this winner take all zero sum game dynamic that is in part of our current Game A system. And others, goes along with that omni win or win-win-win. And there's others we can explore, but I think those are, and I have my own thoughts that I want to do some writing. I'm going to start doing some writing the next couple of days about that. One thing that I think is very important is acknowledging that there are multiple forms of intelligence. So just set aside AI, artificial intelligence, for a moment, and let's appreciate that there are multiple human intelligences that we should pay attention to, or I make the argument that it's going to be degenerative if we don't. Namely, some other forms of intelligence besides cognitive intelligence is what I'm really interested in, is moral intelligence. And there's even a new moral intelligence and existential intelligence. And those are some more recently added forms of intelligence by Howard Gardner, who's kind of made this whole concept known, is that these multiple forms of intelligence. So we could get into that later, but unless and until we have moral intelligence and an existential intelligence, then artificial intelligence is going to be degenerative, I think.
Yeah, it's good. Thanks. Interesting to see. I mean, there are multiple different organizations and platforms that have the potential to be regenerative. But it's interesting to see exactly how regenerative it can be if we pull in certain criteria. You mentioned a few. I want to move to the second section of our discussion a bit, where we look at these parameters and criteria for AI integration. And one of the questions that we can ask is, how can we ensure that AI solutions are ethical, sustainable, and community-oriented? Maybe Sid, you would like to reflect on that part.
Ethical and community oriented. Yeah, I've been learning a little bit about, like, and I don't know if I'm answering these questions appropriately, but like learning about how Miro, you guys have used Miro before, that tool.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
How it's integrated with AI to, again, like synthesize information. Like a bunch of people could be collaborating, and then using Miro's AI tools, you can have it create a visual representation of what everyone input and create graphics to reflect that. So to me, that's like pretty community centric, in that it's like supporting with, again, like showing and synthesizing like where is the collective intelligence at, like what's happening with the community, and how can we use AI to support making those different connections and patterns more clear. And then ethical, yeah, I think what comes up for me there is just the problems surfacing around copywriting or AI just like pulling from sources that it shouldn't be, and there's different controls being developed to help navigate that. But I am a fan of actually changing the concept of intellectual property and shifting thinking towards, nobody really owns anything. Like, again, we're connected to this higher consciousness, collective intelligence. Like, so much of us have the same ideas and visions without even knowing each other or talking to each other. So who really owns information? I really like the idea of like decentralized science and shifting that notion of intellectual property. But at the same time, I'm aware and I value and I honor the work of people who it's their livelihood to be creating material that through AI could just be taken and repurposed. But yeah, I know there's a lot of like legal, there's a lot of like lawyers who are getting into this space to support with this because it's becoming a major issue.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, spot on with what you said there. And I'm with you on that. We need to reframe how we look at property. And if we're talking about, we have been kicking around this notion for a while now, this idea of collected intelligence. Okay, so right now, all the big players, and you mentioned Miro, which is a great technology, but it's privately owned. And there's many other great technologies out there that are also, embracing AI. But these are private corporations and private, they're profiting off of collected intelligence. So they're, OpenAI started as an open source project, and now it's owned by, Google or Microsoft, and all these AI endeavors right now are privately owned. And so and they're scouring their large language models, are scouring the internet, collecting all of our human data and intelligence. So we need to move from collected intelligence to true collective intelligence, where it is part of and not even owned, but it's the common heritage of all humanity. In other words, the commons. So I think if we, as we move forward with AI, it's going in the wrong direction. If it's all about private ownership of collective intelligence. And so there's a word for that by a new book from Yanis Varoufakis called techno-feudalism. And he describes pretty much what's happening by what I call the Cosmocorps, are swallowing up all of our data that, it's socially created assets that private corporations are profiting off of. And that's more, talk about ethics, Robert. That to me is ethically and morally wrong. It should be part of the commons, and there's a whole commons movement now, or peer-to-peer commons movement. And I think if we can shift this AI technology and other technologies into a non-rivalrous commons, then that's hopeful for humanity.
Yeah, thanks both of you for that. Yeah, I can see on the ethical part, there, if you take, for instance, a group like the Free World Charter, they have 10 principles to ensure the well-being of every human being and nature on this planet. And it's 10 simple rules, 10 simple criteria, but they're quite ethical in a way that, they are in service of humanity, doing good. So if we could feed this criteria into the AI and say every time we check the boxes, like, yeah, if we apply to these conditions, then we are on a regenerative pathway. And there are many, many more, of course. There are dozens, thousands maybe of different manifestos with all kinds of ethical points in there that we could include. And I think with AI, it's very possible now to give these references to the system. I would like to flow a bit to the third part of our reflection, if that's okay. And that's, yeah, let's tackle the implementation aspect. I mean, what do you think are the challenges we might face for the coming 2-3 years, and how can we overcome them using AI? Some topics were already mentioned. I'm personally focusing a lot on the positive outlook and the use of AI. It can be of immense support for some sectors, for instance, in healthcare, in governance, maybe even economics. But I'm very much interested where you see where the challenges lie, and yeah, which way we could sort of overcome them. And of course, we need to be very critical. But for me, let other people focus on that. They can do it a lot better. My nature is to see and to explore where we can use AI, mainly to support us in this development. I would love to hear your thoughts, and you can pick who wants to go, Troy or Sid.
Go ahead, Sid.
I'm trying to not repeat myself because I've kind of brought up some of these potential challenges.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll just share, like, on my team at Permatours, there's a lot of resistance around using AI, period. Like, there's a lot of fear around it causing a lot of people hardship and losing their jobs, of course. And so I'm just navigating that, that resistance when I see that it can be really powerful and helpful. And I recognize that there is going to be a lot of change that'll come with it. So I'll pause there. Maybe Troy, what is coming to mind for you will inspire me further.
Yeah, thanks, Sid. Yeah, I think 2024 is going to be a tumultuous year. I'm reminded of the phrase, things are getting better and better, worse and worse, faster and faster. And I think that's kind of where we're at with AI. And there's actually a movement that I've been delving into to understand the thinking, but it's called E/ACC, which stands for Effective Accelerationism. And it's basically this whole movement based around the concept that we need to accelerate as fast as possible under capitalism and free markets and all that to bring about what they envision as a new paradigm, right? To me, that's scary as hell. And I think that's the dystopic part I'm worried about. To maybe, I don't really want to use the word combat that, but so we're creating a new acronym that's called RE/ACC, or Regen Accelerationism. And so in other words, we want to outcompete the degenerative accelerationism with regenerative accelerationism. And so, yeah, so we can focus on the positive, and do it as fast as possible. And as long as we follow all the criteria, Robert, that you just mentioned is already available as to what makes something regenerative, then I don't worry about that. But Sid, coming back to your point, yeah, we've met so many permaculturists and eco-villages that are technophobic, and for good reason. They just don't trust it. But if we could develop regenerative technology, regenerative AI around these regenerative criteria, then I'm convinced that we can reestablish trust. And these new forms of self-governance and economics and mutual credit currencies or tokenomics, all that becomes self-evidently better than the degenerative systems that we have now, and people will hopefully adopt it.
Yeah, what's coming up for me is that between AI and robotics, I feel like we're going to see a world that can house everyone, can feed everyone, and we can now, but like we're going to be at a different level. And what I continue to come back to is governance and power. And if AI can support a bunch of small communities with figuring or helping navigate that, and then there's a bunch of like small communities that are working together with their own governance to change systems, then I think we're going to be okay. So it's just like a matter of going there. And I think what I've been challenged with most with delving into these alternative forms of governance and economics, tokenomics, is just the time that it takes. It's like learning a new language, and it's just really time intensive and requires a lot of education and changing thinking. And so like Permatours has been striving towards decentralization and distribution of power, and where we're at now is like we have like a center within the decentralized organization that's like a guiding light and a checks and balances system. But we've paused on the tokenomics side of things because we're just doing so much already, and it feels like we could spend all of our time on just tokenomics. And I'm hopeful that as more and more groups get into it, we'll be able to learn from them and not necessarily like reinvent the wheel there. But once we get to a point where we're really starting to master these alternative economic models that are rewarding and incentivizing the kinds of earth healing projects and behaviors that we want to see in the world, I think we'll be closer at collectively using this technology in a way that aligns, instead of just like continuing to head towards the edge of collapse.
Yeah, thanks. Great points from both of you. Just to reflect a bit on the first part you mentioned, Sid. I mean, it's quite interesting to see if there is fear for people for losing their jobs. You know, in which daylight can we sort of take a look at this? Because 70% of the the jobs we have are non-essential. They're bullshit jobs, and those are bullshit jobs in degenerative systems as we know them at the moment. So yeah, I think it's interesting to reflect on it. How exactly are we afraid of losing our jobs? I mean, there's always resistance to something new, a new technology in the beginning. People have to see the benefits from it and experience it. But personally, I think, a lot of new jobs will come out of it, and probably much more efficiently. I would love to hear, sort of as an end conclusion, I'd love to hear some thoughts of you guys.
My artist friends are freaking out.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. That's the main thing.
Yeah, and now with OpenAI just came out with a new Sona text to video AI that's creating incredible videos just from prompts. And so what's that going to do to filmmakers and artists and all that? I think that's part of this releasing of the old borders and boundaries that have been hamstringing us. Sid, that you were talking about this, we need to rethink intellectual property and beyond profiting off of our creations, And so this may end up opening up a whole new liberating framework for artists and creatives beyond the need to make money for it, which is why I kind of refer to this as a, the regenaissance. I think we could potentially have this just flourishing of art once we remove the shackles of needing to earn our living off of doing so, just, yeah, a whole new paradigm is upon us, and it's radical as fuck, but it needs to be. And I see it as a hopeful and inspiring time if we can follow this regenerative criteria with our technology.
I love that you brought up that point that with this technology, a lot of us will hopefully not need to, or all of us will hopefully not need to just slave away at jobs that we don't like. We can just create for creation's sake and have more time and space to explore and share our gifts, and not need to be bound by the shackles of needing to pay bills and etc. So I love that direction, and I'm going to hold on to that and reflect on that when I'm being faced with some of the more gloom and doom potentials.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks, guys. I know this is a super brief conversation, but we sort of come to the end already. And thanks for your very valuable contributions today and your insights. It's very clear that AI can offer an immense potential for regenerative communities. Its integration requires careful consideration of ethical, social, and ecological factors. And I'm happy to share in the text box the document that we already started with some regenerative criteria. It would be wonderful if you take a look at it and add yours, so we can make the list more complete. I think it's also interesting to show you something we experimented with a few days ago. And basically, we run a test case. We took a project, in this case, a co-living hub project from 7 years back, and we run through the project plan through the AI, and we ask it to check the boxes of how regenerative the project actually was. And it was pretty interesting because, it takes a look at things like, does it benefit humans and other species? Is it reducing extraction in extractive economies, and so on? So the green points are, they check the boxes. So those are all regenerative checkpoints, criteria. The orange one are sort of in the middle, and the red ones is something that's still missing. So like transparent feedback loops in this project and net positive outcome. And if you go to the end and you follow through these criteria, could be anyone, there is a prognosis. And in this case, for this project, it says there's a 70% alignment with regenerative principles. But it's very interesting to see, hey, what is missing still, and how can we improve? So basically, that wraps up our session. I will stop the sharing. And we just move into a new place. We have 1.5 minutes to go, and the people are coming to say hi to us. So I have to wrap it up. Thanks so much for being here. I really
Robert,
appreciate it.
do you expect to continue this dialogue? Is this part of Singularity Net, or?
Yeah, this is part of Singularity Net. And we certainly want to expand on the dialogue. Of course, the main event, the summit, will happen in Panama at the end of this month. It lasts 4 or 5 days. So we will continue after the summit with more work streams and work groups to look at specific elements of AI. So yeah, thanks again. I wish you a great day or continuance. And thanks for being here.
Thanks
Thank
to
you.
see you. Again.
Really appreciate both of your time and insights. Thank you guys.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye. Ciao.
Bye.